Okay, it's been a little while since I painted. Here's what we're painting. This is a snow scene. That's the Navesink River. And pretty minimal. We'll come down to the palette here. And just mix up some color. It's very kind of monochromatic. That's ultramarine blue. Take some of this white. I kind of like these very simple, minimal paintings. Just to give you an idea of what this color looks like now, I'll take the knife and put it next to the photograph. You can see how bright that is. So we're going to knock that color down with raw umber. That's this over here. And that already looks a lot better. It's just kind of, it's more subdued, I think. So we can take that color and then hold it there. It's kind of hard to do looks pretty good. I think I have to knock it down a little bit more. I might add a little white. A little more white, maybe a touch of the black over here. That's kind of a lot. I'll zoom in a bit. And this will be kind of what represents the water. I don't consider myself like a good painter, but sometimes I make paintings I like, and it all comes down to just painting. So that's what's nice about these small panels. They measure 5 3/4 by 7 inches, and you can paint them horizontally or vertically, whatever you like to do. And we'll just grab a brush. Pull that paint right off the knife. Super casual. Didn't really want that over there. You can always grab a little paint thinner. You'll see how much this makes the paint run. I think the nice thing about painting is, especially if you're a woodworker, it doesn't take up a lot of space. So you can do something creative that isn't a huge time commitment and also doesn't take up a lot of space or require a lot of space to make. And just for the fun of it, let's just grab a little bit of this burnt umber here and put that right into the water and kind of mix it around. See what happens. Then we can, I kind of like that actually. Then we can deal with the sky, and what I think I'll do is just grab a bunch of white and maybe half of this. There's a lot of white right there. And the nice thing about a painting like this is you can make this painting and come back in a day or two when it kind of skins over and is a bit dry and go into it some more. Sometimes that builds up a nice texture. We'll just go ahead and throw that right in there. So this was wasn't a snowstorm, it was just a snowfall over here where I live. And this is a view of the Navesink River. So you could say like this is making a color field painting like a color field painter. Like, you know, Mark Rothko. That almost looks like a Mark Rothko-esque kind of painting. That almost reminds me of a bank of clouds. So you could do that. You know, nothing, you don't have to get so caught up in what the thing actually is. I'm going to grab some white with the brush here and throw that up top to lighten up the sky. And then down, like if you look at this, there's just, maybe that's wind on the water or something. We can just take what we have on the brush here, throw that in the water, maybe that'll work. There's a little bit right there. You could make it really painterly, so you have a lot of texture in your painting. And then I would say the darkest, let me just smooth this out a little bit. Maybe the darkest part of the painting is this area that sort of represents land. So this would be Seabright, and that area over here would be Rumson. And we'll just mix up, we'll get some more of this burnt umber. And I'm going to put this in a frame later because paintings always look better, I think, when they're put in a frame. It allows you to see them a little more. I'm going to take a little more of this burnt umber. And I suggest doing that. It's kind of fun to make a painting, put it in a frame, and look at it for a day or two. Let's see what we got. Maybe we'll grab a new brush because this was full of paint. You can see that. And maybe what I'll do now is bring that sky down. But as you can see that's almost represents light. Like if I just took a chunk of white and put that in there. You see I got the white on the brush. I could do this. What's that going to do? I don't know what that does, but it was worth checking out. So we'll take this brush that has all this paint on it. We can bring this down again. Some of my favorite paintings are the ones with very little detail. They just happen. Not so much my paintings, but just paintings that I look at other painters have made. You could also take a dry brush at this point if you wanted to. We'll do it just for the sake of doing it. This is a really shitty brush. I don't like this thing, but I might use it anyway. Let's see if you can see it there. I don't buy expensive brushes, and sometimes some brushes are better than others. But this one actually seems to be working pretty good with this. Kind of no texture. Let's see what happens if we take this. Everything's really soft because of the snow. So this idea that there's no really like extreme hard lines is kind of Nice. So that's just a technique. You know, it doesn't always work, but seems to be kind of working for this one. This was a few weeks ago. So what I do is I just take pictures. I actually don't take pictures. I take videos of things, and then I grab like a screen grab of it, and that's how I come up with things to paint. You can see the difference. There's almost a lot more going on here than in the photograph. But just a really subtle landscape, winterscape. Maybe let's throw a little more white in there, see what happens. So I got white on this, or have white on this big lousy brush here. I'm not saying that that's like a painting I would keep, but it's a painting that you can do. You can look at for a little while and then maybe paint over it. And sometimes having this underpainting, you could call it a foundation, may help your next painting. So we'll put this in a frame, and then maybe I'll try to find an old painting, sand it down a little bit, and see if I can make the same painting on the old painting and see what happens. Okay, so here's the painting in this big fancy frame. Blue and yellow are complementary colors, so sometimes a blue painting will work in a gold frame like that. But let's go ahead and find another painting, an old painting, and paint over it. Gives me a chance to show off my fancy painting cabinet here. Oops, this is just black. So here's an old Seascape. I'm going to sand that down, scrape it down a little bit, and make the same painting on this. Just going to paint this out, or not paint this, but sand this outside. Scrape this off with a razor blade. So now we'll go ahead and take this painting that I just sanded down and have another go at it. So we'll come down to the palette here, and you never know, could find something really good in this painting, or it could just be another painting that I paint over one day. But we'll go ahead and grab, this is cobalt blue, a large piece of white here. I'd love to be able to capture that feeling of a snowy day when everything's a little bit more quiet. It was like perfect weather. I was mountain biking, and it was great traction because it was just about like an inch of snow. This is burnt umber. You can see that this is a little bit, it's not as dark as the raw umber. So I'll just throw that in there too. Mainly because I don't think I have any more raw umber on my, oh, there's a little bit. All right. I don't think that's really a good color match. but I like the color. I'll show you what it looks like against the photograph. See that? Actually that's pretty close. So we'll go ahead and move this easel around a little bit. Hard to do this sometimes with this three-legged easel, kind of gets in the way of where I want to stand. But okay, that looks good. Where's that brush with all the paint on it? So I'm going to take that. This has got paint on it from the other one. And we'll just get rid of that up here. Then we'll take this. A little bit of paint thinner to help the paint move around a bit. Sometimes I like to see the paint not go all the way out to the edge. Just kind of gives an interesting look. All right, that's pretty good. Now we're going to go up into the sky, and I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to take a piece of white here and mix it in. If I can come up with something that just sort of represents the weather, you know, kind of represents the feeling of that day, more so than exactly what that image looks like, and at the same time as a painting that somehow is interesting to me, then that's a win. Kind of like that. Even though that has nothing to do really, because now kind of has nothing to do with the whole snowy landscape, but there's something about this that I'm kind of liking. Yeah, could just leave it maybe. That looks like something completely different. Like this kind of feels like a sandbar. And I like all this stuff. I like all this underpainting here. What the hell's that thing in there? I don't like that though. That's gone. Okay, good. I'll hit that, just clean that up a bit. And so like, I think I'm just going to keep that. Let me see if I can find another frame. I'd like to find another frame that has gold on it. Here's one. All right, so that looks like that. Let's put it down by the other one. All right, well, it doesn't really have anything to do with the scene that I was trying to paint, but I kind of like this. That's kind of the nice thing about making paintings, and then you can sand them down, paint over them, because it's not so much about trying to represent what you saw all the time. If you just make a painting that you happen to like, and I happen to like this one better than this one, I'll give it a couple of days. Maybe I'll paint over that one as well. But see, I like all this stuff that's happening down here. So yeah, I'll put photographs of both of these paintings plus the subject that I was painting from. If you want to paint these, sometimes it's easier to make a painting from another painting. I'm sure it won't look anything like that, but it's sort of like something to build off of. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. And I'll put a link to the post in the description below with all the photographs. So if you want to paint this, you can paint along with me. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them in the next video. See you next time.